I just finished reading No Ashes in the Fire by Darnell L. Moore. I tapped it up a bunch. Like, there was just a lot of really great quotes and passages and moments in this book that I just loved. Like, I'm telling you, like, I was reading this book and I was like, yo, I'm gonna get spitting bars right now, like bars on you hoes. Like, what's good? Like, have you not? Like, come on. He's just like, he's king of the ring right now. He's coming out here like, you busters, you suckers, you whack mother. You know what I'm saying? He's just out here like eating. He's like eating the girls up. Like, he's eating them clean. The fuck up. Just like cleared his plate. What's up? Like, he chewed them. Like, bars. I loved it. I loved it. Like, like he's on Nicki Minaj's level. Like, some of these rappers out here, they ain't spitting like my boy Darnell is spitting right now. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? They're just not. No Ashes in the Fire is the memoir of Darnell L. Moore's life up till what he was like about. What is it? Yeah, I guess up till like where he is at 40. It really catches up to where he was a part of the Black Lives Matter movement when he went out to Ferguson to protest Mike Brown's murder. It really explores his family's life and him growing up and just how that correlates to American history, how a lot of the systemic oppression, how it has affected him personally and his family personally. He pushed through in life. Like, reading about him, I was like, yo, why wasn't I as cool as you? Why wasn't I as like, oh, tough as you? Like, but then there's aspects of him that was just kind of like, I wouldn't want to be like you in that way. Overall, like, I just loved reading about his life. In this book, he dropped a lot of facts and statistics and just history about a lot of systems that are set up in this country, how just unfair and racist this country has been towards Black people and just people of color as a whole. There was a Latino man who was murdered by the police, like, I believe in the 80s, and how there was an uprising about that, and just like how much there have been so many uprisings in America for people of color that have been murdered by the police, you know? And there's just like always a protest, there's always something about it, and there's just never any change, and there just needs to be. In reading this and seeing how he's explored his own understanding of himself, of his community, of Blackness in America, and just about being free in America as a Black queer person and trying to live as freely and as unabashedly and fearlessly in America and just having a good life and not being bogged down by the oppressiveness of how this country's set up. It just got me doing even more introspection. Like, that was the thing going into this, like, after reading All Boys Are Blue. It made me really think more about how I can like live a more just free, just unencumbered life. Like, still be aware of what is out there, anything that can be dangerous towards my own life, but I still just want to just live as freely and as happily and openly and honestly as possible. I don't want to be bogged down by anything that's just like oppressive, and also still fight the oppression that we're going through and dealing with. But I definitely wanted to share some if not all of the quotes and passages that I really loved in this book. I thought his writing was really beautiful. It was very, very poetic and very, very smart and in-depth and intense. Like, your boy here, he's a poet, but he's also like a preacher, a minister. He's like all of these different things. He's an activist. Darnell's amazing. First quote I'm gonna read. We have always been here. Black, queer, transgender, and gender nonconforming people loved and fucked on some racist master's plantation. We wrote theories debunking white racial supremacist ideology. We, too, were architects of Black liberation, women's justice, anti-war movements, and the Black arts. We are the unnamed Black sisters, brothers, and non-binary people who lived queer theory before it was popular among those in white academia. We are the alive, the dead, lovers, fighters, movement builders, cultural producers. We are the everyday, ordinary magicians who learn to create life amid death-dealing cultures of hatred and lies. We maroon ourselves and we birth freedom, but many of us are still denied our rightful place in the master narratives of Black history and American life. Even in these progressive, Afrofuturistic oriented times, our life stories and contributions are still refused, and that is why we must tell as many of our stories as we can. No Ashes in the Fire is mine. And that's the thing, every time I read the title, No Ashes in the Fire, I always think of the song No Church in the Wild by by what is it, by Watch the Throne. You know, Jay-Z and Kanye West is like, I don't know, outfit, musical outfit featuring Frank Ocean. Be like, no ashes in the fire. Never mind. Anyway, next quote. I searched because I wanted to understand my family's history, my history. Stumbling through the present, unaware of the people and circumstances from which I came, was like walking in the dark. I know my life began at a particular point in time, in a particular place, but I was not aware of the path my elders had traveled to get me there. As I researched, I studied the signatures of 3 generations of family members on military registration cards and marriage certificates. Every curve and fracture spotted in their handwriting resembled an ink blot, giving hints about the disposition of the people who existed in the world I had often imagined but never traveled through. The contexts in which they survived were complex and inspiring. The racism, economic exploitation, misogyny, and political disenfranchisement that tried to suffocate their hopes and block their passage to realize freedom were present, but the forces did not always succeed. And even when they did, our family's unmatched love seems to always triumph. And that was one of the biggest themes going through this book, is that there was so much love despite all of the injustice that they as a black family have experienced throughout their history in America. You know, there's just so much love that they've always been able to take care of each other and care about each other and prop each other up and hold each other up and take and just always having each other's backs. So that is definitely what a big part of being black in America is about. It's about the love. And that's why black love is important. With the black men I've encountered as strangers who became friends, uncles, and brothers, and the black men I've held close as we've dreamt through nights in a bed we shared, impenetrable walls have kept us far enough apart to avoid the nakedness so profoundly bare and safe I experienced with the black man who taught me how to stay afloat in the water as a child. As is the case with most of my family members, our intimacy is as thick as the warm blood binding us, but we've learned to keep so much of our interior lives and secrets locked away. To truly know someone is to be fully aware of their inner lives, the people whose lives made their lives possible, and the context through which they have survived. There's much we don't know about each other. I learned a bit about my father, however, after he passed. And that was one thing that was like super interesting to me, is how much we love our family, we are with our family. We are part of a family, but sometimes for some of us as black people, we don't know all of our history within our family because there are secrets that are kept from us. There are things that it's like, people that came before us, elders that came before us are like, I don't want to share that. That's my business to share. I'm going to take that to the grave with me because of their own guilt and shame over things that they've had to do to survive, to get them to this point, to get them to the point that you can be alive and that you can thrive as a part of this family, as a part of the next branch in this family tree. I don't know, there's just so much that you want to learn about your family history because you want to know, where did you come from? What did you do? You know, how did you get here? Through all the larger history of this world that we've had to go through. Like, how'd you get here? Sometimes there's just some history that some of your family just doesn't want to share, but sometimes you gotta push through and be like, let me know. I'm an adult, I'm grown, I can handle it. It's not gonna be easy, but I'm a deal, you know. And your family, and I love you, and I'm not gonna judge you for who you've been in the past because we all change. And sometimes understanding where you've come from kind of helps me understand where I can go, you know, like who I can be going forward, you know, understanding that there are mistakes that I'll make, but I will be able to rebound because I have my family and I've had their knowledge and experience to push me forward going on in my own life. There are few geographies as fiercely desired and derided as the bodies of black girls and women, and my mother's body was no different. She was beaten because of the potential present within her being. Her pregnancy was a sign of her agency. Young mamas, often represented as Jezebel figures, aren't glorified when they are actually seen as humans, or do as they will, or have sex for their own pleasure. My mom decided to give birth to a baby through a body she owned and was punished for it. Powerful. He was just writing like powerful bars, like just. I tell you, this man can write. I tell you. People who lived outside our city ostensibly saw only the social problems that were present on the surface, but they failed to understand and take into account the fundamental, everyday ways in which black families like mine demonstrated care within our homes, even when care was not extended from City Hall, police headquarters, and the governor's office. Care does not look like police patrolling blighted neighborhoods in search of people who fit the description of the assumed criminal to fill up jail cells and meet quotas, both built on the false premise that black people are more prone to violence. Instead, care looks like neighbors passionately intervening to ensure the safety of people they know and strangers they don't, who have been assailed by police many times for no reason other than the color of their skin. Care, the kind of support that one gives to push another toward wholeness, is not a consequence of apathy. Care is my Aunt Arlene stealing food, mindful of the consequences if she were to be caught, so her sisters and brothers' bellies could be a bit more full when they lay down in their beds to rest. My family cared deeply in the absence of policies and programs that were grounded in love. As a child, I assumed the world was full of people just like them who loved just as hard and sacrificed just as much. I love this quote right here. Dreams die if they are consigned to the imagination only. They are the seeds we must be able to plant in the outside world. At least, that is what I now know, having remembered the days I manifested dreams as a youth. I thought that was like a really beautiful quote and a really good piece of advice about like following your dreams and like keeping your dreams close to you and like going after them and not just leaving them in your imagination but making them come to life and making them happen, manifesting them and making them real, and be a benefit and a blessing to the world. With all of the information the public has access to regarding the lives of Black, LGBT, and gender nonconforming people, the heart of our society is hardened still. LGBT youth are subjected to harsh treatment in their homes, schools, and spiritual communities. They traverse streets that sometimes double as sites of murder. The reality that LGBT youth are disproportionately affected by homelessness, over-policing in their neighborhoods, and biased treatment within healthcare institutions is well documented. Trans women of color are murdered at alarming rates, yet these appalling crimes are recast in media headlines without widespread heartbreak or a call to action. The myth of gay economic progress is tempered by the reality that many Black LGBT people carry the weight of poverty. Some do not survive the journey. Attempts to love, marry, have sex, and use public restrooms without the interference of states, municipalities, and businesses are undertakings that require courage and trust. But it is hard to put faith in systems that render you a throwaway. Black LGBT people are not the amoral problems deserving of what has been inflicted upon us, nor are we victims who refuse to fight back or sometimes die while trying. The more precise rendering of the problem is one that exposes both victimizers and an apathetic public that allows bias, violence, and hatred to continue under its watch. Too many of the strong have died at the hands of the weak, and the silence of those who supposedly love us have been the loudest response. Those of us alive to tell our stories do so because our testimonies counteract the silence and our demand for safety, love, and life. And whether we are mocked or killed while giving voice, the lasting sound of our individual and collective voices remain as evidence of matchless endurance. Loaded. I told you it's bars. It's bars out here. Like, he's an intellectual rapper, a conscious rapper out here, just rapping in these books, you know what I'm saying? Normal is a pass afforded only to those who are too scared to dream, too afraid to transgress. Queerness is a way of life people fear because in it, they might find freedom. But I was caged for a long time before I took hold of my liberation. I'm telling you, like, he's gonna be up there with James Baldwin. Like, I feel like Baldwin was like one of his biggest inspirations in writing this book, or at least in how he conveys his words, because Baldwin is excellent with his words. So him, You've learned from the best. You know what I'm saying? You've learned from James Baldwin. Not one of my teachers ever revealed that queerness was the magic expressing itself in and through my black body, shaping my wishes and pushing me toward the night. I'm telling you, I never expressed the full range of emotions I felt. For many black boys and girls who are attracted to the same sex, black queer life is a life of solitary confinement. Love didn't feel quite like love because I couldn't speak it out loud. Unlike some black teens who have friends, family members, and other adults to share secrets with or to ask questions, I had no one. The type of love I wanted to experience didn't seem to exist for others. And not having counsel, examples, or the safety and freedom to express my longings at home and at school meant that I spent many days desiring freedom from captivity. I imagined the questions I wanted family members to ask. I also imagined my responses. Who is that cute boy you were with? You seem to brighten up whenever he is around. What do you love about him? Does he make you smile? Does he make you laugh? Do you feel safe? Yes, yes, I would respond. Freedom. The human spirit breaks when longing so human, so acceptable to everyone else are denied. Homophobia is the strong hand that strangles the desires of those too vulnerable to undo its firm grip. Lovelessness is a consequence of living in a queer-hating society. It shapes relationships between black men who love men, just as it shapes our relationship to the communities we exist in. We've been denied love, and some of us have sought out what we could to fill the gaping wells drained dry by a society that taught us to hate ourselves. But like cunning magicians, many of us have learned to break ourselves out of our cages, even when those attempting to master our lives keep fervent hold of the keys. Difference, queerness, deviance is so terrifying it demands disposability and death. But it was also my magic. I now wonder how many black boys and men walk under dark clouds every day, hoping to appear closer to the stereotypical images of success and masculinity so many of us are taught to emulate. It wasn't that I was too weak to simply think differently or give a middle finger to hateful people. I wanted to die, which is to say, not live, which is to say, not have to be strong enough all the time to fight to exist, which is to say, fight at all, which is to say, I really want to live without having to fight so damn hard to exist. Death, among some, is not always conceived of as dying when you are already perceived as dead. Rather, it is imagined as another way of living beyond the boundaries of others' perception. It's another way of snatching freedom. But we should not have to concede victory to death when all we really demand is a life free of psychological and material violence, when all we demand is love and love's loving consequences. I love this one because this one was just really kind of hit me because I was just like, oh, it hit me, what I guess in my privilege, it just hit me like, and just like, check yourself. Black girls are expected to mother black boys who are and aren't their sons. And black boys, queer or straight, often demand our mothers, sisters, friends, and partners meet and even exceed that expectation. All boys are taught that the world is theirs, but black boys learn early on that the world they are required to rule is the home, the place often sustained by the visible and invisible labor of black women and girls we share homes and relationships with. The home is likened to a kingdom black boys are expected to provide for, fight to protect, and lord over. Outside the home, the streets black boys navigate are controlled by the state and the wealthy, and black boys' freedoms are restricted and policed. White boys are raised to rule the home, the streets, the banks, the courts, the legislative halls, the church, the academy, the medical industry, the military, and the country. They are granted permission to travel through the world, never questioning their need to control others' bodies and properties, never reflecting on their incessant demand for respect and entitlement, never removing themselves from the center of the public imagination. Black boys are taught to replicate the white boy game, but eventually they realize the game was never set in their favor. Some then do all they can to manipulate the contest by trying to beat the game masters in a match best forfeited. If the country cannot be ruled, the home damn sure can, which includes attempts at ruling the lives and bodies of our mothers, sisters, partners, nieces, and aunties. I've played the game over and over again and have wounded black girls and women in the process. I wounded myself not realizing that patriarchy, male dominance, takes aim at girls and women and the humanity of men too. That one, powerful. Tell you, this book, like if I reread this again, there'll be like even more layers that like I could get out of this. I didn't create or lock myself in a closet. Our society's idols, the god that is heterosexuality, is a closet meant to keep the power of self-creation and determination out of the hands of the brave. We stay locked away peering and snickering at anyone who escapes. And when we come upon fugitives, we rush to drag them back in because we want to maintain the comfort and safety that results from their discomfort and harm. I wish I had known that then. I wish I hadn't been addicted to the praise others showered upon me because I leapt into the depths of a shallow faith. My wounds ran too deep to be cured because people loved what I allowed them to see, a man in pursuit of patriarchy's riches. I feared revealing the innermost parts of a self I knew would cancel out any visions of my perceived virtue. I had yet to believe all of me was lovable. I learned to live a lie, or rather, I did my best to kill my desires for men and sex, for the pleasantries of young adult wonderment and debauchery by forcing them underground. And the last quote that I want to read, individual violence is easy to name and confront, while the violence committed by majority groups, institutions, and structures is harder to discern and undo. So after all of those quotes that I thought were amazing, I definitely suggest reading this book. It is quality content. I think this is also another required read. It's so many layers, so much depth, so much levels, layers. You know, it's an onion. Peel it back. You getting a lot going on up in here. I'm looking forward to seeing what else Darnell will write in the future because I know he's going to write something else. I don't know if it's going to be nonfiction, if it's going to be fiction. I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely read it. He's going to be spitting even more facts in my face. And I'm just going to be like, oh my God. It's quality content. Like, you get so much in here. So much is packed into this book that, like, only 200 and some pages. It's thick. It's deep. It's like levels, layers, depth, like beautiful writing. Everything is up in here. You get educated in here too. Like, quality book. Okay, get you a piece, get you all in. So thank you for spending your time with me, and I'm out this bitch like Fleek.